In the last video I left off with giving you a program in which you had to print some pattern, but we could not use a nested loop. So in this video let's first do the solution and then we can move ahead. So let me open a new file. Right, so the hint I had given you is that we had to use strings. So let's first have the string. So let's say n is equal to a string of hash, so just hash. And after that I also told you that we must allow the user to decide how many times to print the hashes. So let's do that, how many times. So not that, let's make the variable as x is equal to int input. So input will be converted to an integer. Enter how many times is the, alright, that's that. So that will be something, some integer. Now we're going to store the pattern in another variable. So the pattern, I'm just going to keep it empty string for now, won't have anything. So we can't use nested loops, but surely we can use loops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a for loop. So for I in x, so x we know is the how many times, so based on that the loop will run x times. That's done. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our pattern which had nothing in it, and we are going to add on to it another string which is n. So we're going to add hash to it. After adding hash to it, we are also going to print the pattern. So we're going to print the pattern, and that's all you need to do for the code. Let me save this. So let's just run the program before we understand it. So I want to do it 10 times. Int object is not iterable. Interesting. So what did we do? Oh yes, I forgot. For I in range x, because that is the function we use in the for loop to go through a range. So I forgot that. Let's do it now. Yeah, and that's your program. So hash 2 times 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So 10 hashes in there. Let's see what actually happened. So in the first pattern is nothing, and so we go through the loop. In the first iteration what happens is the pattern adds hash to it. So hash has been added, so now pattern is equal to hash, and then we print that hash. Right, that's okay. In the next iteration again we add hash to this pattern, so now it would have 2 hashes, and we print that, and so on. It keeps going, 3 hashes, 4 hashes. You could do this for any x number of hashes. You could even do this for 50 hashes and it would work perfectly. So that was the solution. Now let's move on and study more about string manipulation. So apart from the plus and into operator that we had learned, there is another operator which is the in operator or not in operator. These two operators. So it might, let's do it. So let's say I have a string n is equal to a b c d. So what I'm going to do is, so n, so we're going to take a string, let's say I guess a, capital A, and we do in. So this is the operator we're going to use, and then n, a in n. It says true. So what is happening here, or to make it more clear, let's do another example. B in C D A, false. So what we are finding out here is that is the character A in the string n or in the string ABCD, and yes, it is there inside, so it returns and says true. Similarly here we see B in CDA and it doesn't find B in this, so it says false. It's important to realize that small a and capital A are two different characters. They are considered different. So if you do something like A in ABCD, you would get false because the small a isn't there in this string. Now apart from checking with just single characters, you could even check something interesting like this. Say AB, check AB in, let's do abracadabra. Now that would do false because AB is capital here. So let's do one more where AB is not capital. So let's see, AB in abracadabra. It does say true. Now, although it says true, let's try one more where I put something in between the B, another EB, and now if you see, it says false because I have put an X between the A and B. So it checks for the whole thing and ensures that it finds an exact AB somewhere here, but we cannot find any ABs here. There is no AB because of the X that I added in between, so it says false. Now apart from this, there is also another operator. Let's actually copy the same thing we did here, exact same thing, and instead of just in, we're going to put a not in. Now I think you must be already knowing what the not operator does, so you can probably guess what the not in total operator does. So not in operator, that just says true, so it says the opposite of what we want basically. So you could do, let's do another, let's take the old one, A in N. Well, let's check if B is there in our string ABCD, and instead of in we say not in, and just does the opposite. Instead of saying true, it says the opposite, false. So it inverts the output. Instead of true, false, or instead of false, true. So this is the in and not in operator. Now let's do an interesting program. Let's say that you input any integer, the user inputs any integer, and you have to check if it contains a 0 in it. So I'll give you some time to try it on your own. So assuming that you tried it, let's actually go through the solution. So first thing is to obviously, let me move on here. So first thing is to obviously get the integer. So n is equal to int input get, give me the integer, that's there. And now what we will do is, what we should do is, I think let's convert the integer to a string first. So s is equal to the string of n. Now that that's converted, I'm going to use an if statement. So if 0, that's what we want to check, if 0 is in s, so string s, so if it is in there, then print we found a 0 in your number. Although I think you already know that, else there is no 0 in your number. So I think that's it. So we are checking if the string 0 or the single character 0 is there in s, is there in our string s, which we know is basically the integer but converted to a string. So that's what we did here, we converted the integer to a string. Although you could have done the string here as well, but I think this would work out better for now. So let's put some number, let's put 100. We found a 0 in your number, although I think you already know that. Let's put some other number, 125. There is no 0 in your number. 102513F5. We found a 0 in your number, although I think you already know that. So nice program to do. Before we wind up, I'm going to give you two interesting programs. One is to find out an easy way to print a blank line. So already I think you already know that to print a blank space is just doing this, but what if you had to print a blank space, say 10 times, or who knows, even 20 times? So that's the first program we're going to try. another program. Write a program that asks a user to input a username and a password, and you must make sure that the user does not use their username as a part of the password. So the password should not contain the username as part of it. They must be distinct. This is the second program you can try out.